Hi, Pastor Tabitha Purple. We are back with another My Bibles video series. I'm really happy to do this one. It's going to be short because it's one of the Bibles that I've had for a very long time. I bought it on a whim, mainly because of the title, and then I really struggled to read it. And so the Bible that we're talking about today is called the Jerusalem Bible. And so as per usual, I've gone back through, had a look, where does it come from, who is it from? So let's just get straight into it. So the Jerusalem Bible is an English translation from 1966. It comes from, the name at least, comes from the French, La Bible de Jerusalem. It is actually a Roman Catholic Bible. Didn't know that when I bought it. It's a Roman Catholic Bible, and it's from Britain. So this is a UK based, or so when we talk about the English language, it's UK English language based. It's taken out of Christ College in Liverpool. They had, the main editor was Alexander Jones, and 27 colleagues got together and wrote this. Here's the thing that makes this one different. So normally with a Roman Catholic Bible, you have the Latin Vulgate from which everything is translated. This is one of the first Catholic Bibles in which they actually translate from the Greek and the Hebrew. And so I didn't know that. I have struggled to read it from time to time. I will get it out just to see the words and see if there's a great, to help with translation issues, so on and so forth. I always like to stretch myself. But I haven't really done a lot with it because I find it quite difficult, if I'm honest. I didn't know why, but I just do. It really is a break from tradition. It's quite a groundbreaking Bible, to be honest, for its time. The critical text that are there are critical texts that are translated. So the whole thing is done with a view not to keep Catholic, Roman Catholic theology, but to actually keep the text. And so there are a number of biblical texts which the authors go through, and instead of what the usual translators for the Roman Catholic Church do, which is adjust them to suit their theology, what they actually do is leave them in their original form. And so this is kind of really quite revolutionary, and you know, hats off to them. So things like Luke chapter let me see if I've got the text there. Luke chapter 1 verse 28, when it talks about the announcement of Mary and the birth. Of course, the traditional translation in a Roman Catholic Bible is going to be Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou among women. That's the original translation if you're translating from the Latin Vulgate into Roman Catholic theology. This Bible, the Jerusalem Bible, does something slightly different. And it says, rejoice, so highly favoured, the Lord is with you, which is a complete departure from pushing an agenda. So I was like kind of stuck. I still find it a very difficult translation to get to grips with. I will show you the page so you can see. One of the things that I did was make a deliberate effort not to be inclusive in language. So you don't see some of the more modern translations and iterations have, of course, brothers and sisters when you're addressing a congregation, because you would know that brethren is, of course, everybody, young, old, male, female. It's an inclusive term actually, but we just don't use it in that way anymore. And so they don't do any of that. They're not trying to be inclusive, but I think just the departure from the Latin Vulgate is huge. The departure into actually Greek and Hebrew translation, and working through that. There are a number of challenges with reading it, and I'm going to just get into it and show you. As I said, I found it quite difficult to read, and I think that is because of the layout of the pages and how it looks. So let's break it down and have a look. As I said, this is going to be a quick video because I haven't spent much time in this translation, but I wanted to give you a different perspective and a different translation. So let's have a look. So this is the Bible. Everywhere I've seen it, it comes in this basic blue with the gold writing. It's the popular edition, so it's the most up-to-date or the one that's taken out of all of the different translations of the Jerusalem Bible. There is a lot of context given to each chapters. The paper is incredibly thin, thinner than most, I think, so that makes it difficult because you can literally see the words on the other side of the pages. There's typographical issues, so of course it uses a font that maybe we don't use. It's not a comfort font, which makes it has a slightly different. It's not as comfortable to read, of course. And then every single book or section of books has this introductory element where they give you some context. And then The layout of the book themselves, I actually quite like the single column. As I've said before, single column for me is a really great layout, but the font is really dense and very heavy and hard to read for me personally. The content is fine in terms of how they've actually tried to go about translating, and to keep actually to the text and not to the theological input. But I think it's almost impossible to get away from your theology. Like you can try, but of course you have that in the back of your mind. And as I've said, when you're reading any translation, you have to remember what the author, what the translators, what background they're coming from. And so in this case, it's just, to remember that, of course, this is a Roman Catholic translation, but it is quite a departure for the Roman Catholic Church. So I just wanted to show you what it actually looks like, how they lay it out, the titles that they give, things that they've put in, just to give you an overview really of what the text is. I'm not a Roman Catholic, so therefore, I have it, I use it from time to time. As I say, I get it out just to have a look at the different translation. But even I wasn't aware of its history or its use. It does have we've come to one of them, the full biblical plethora of books, unlike a Protestant Bible, which cuts out some of them, and they're not included. So it has Tobit and others. And so that's something, but it does have, an introduction to give you a reason why, and what the background is. So, Tobit, Judith, and Esther are put into the same category, where, Esther is, of course, in our Bible. So here you have the introductory information and how it's laid out. There are some footnotes, not as many as you would expect to see. So in many Protestant Bibles, there are lots and lots of footnotes because we have a lot to say about how we've translated text, but in this one there isn't, so that makes it easy. And it is fully single column the entire way through. Of course, you have to adjust yourself to seeing things like St. John if you're not from that background. I'm not from, so it doesn't hit with me particularly, but all in all, I would say it must be a real step forward and a really interesting challenge, or an interesting way for Catholic people to have a look at their two Bibles side by side. And something that we should all be doing, obviously, is to just look at translations, and every translation has its merit. So in this case, what they do, obviously with Jesus's words, they do something slightly different. They've put them smaller and indented them so that you can have that. As I said, in terms of comfort, I find it a difficult translation to read, because of the paper quality, and obviously because of the density of the text, it makes it just very uncomfortable for me personally. But that shouldn't put off anyone from reading it. I think it's fantastic that you have so many scholars trying to work on actually being authentic to the Hebrew, the Greek text, and not trying to be authentic to the theological basis of a particular denomination. I believe properly when we're translating the Bible, we need to work cross-denominationally. So I think this is amazing. So well done for them for having this. This is back in 1966, so the language has changed a lot. So just remember that if you're a Catholic, you pick this one up, then you've got to bear that in mind, that the language may be a little difficult. All right, bless you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.